Hello everyone and welcome to another review. Today we're going to go ahead and review a fragrance from the house of English Laundry. The fragrance is known as Oxford Bleu. Now here is the box and presentation. I really like the box and presentation on this one. I'm actually missing the other piece. I just had it here somewhere. Sorry about that. But either way, there's a sleeve that kind of goes over this that looks exactly like the box itself that says Oxford Bleu and it says English Laundry on it by Christopher Wicks. But either way, this is an eau de parfum. When you open up the box, it's got a nice little presentation. It's got like a velvety inside. It's got the emblem on the inside. And when you take out the fragrance itself, I'm going to close the box. The fragrance says Oxford Bleu on the front of it. It's got a very nice metallic-y type of a finish to it, very sophisticated. On the top, it's got English Laundry by Christopher Wicks. That's engraved in the bottle here. It's got some base and some heaviness to the actual bottle itself, but that's pretty much the presentation. Now, you can actually see through the bottle, not completely, but you can see the liquid kind of churning around if you look at the top or in through the top-ish type of an area. If you kind of hold it at an angle when it's got light to it, you can see through it as well too. So that pretty much completes the presentation for this. Now, these are available in two main sizes, or Oxford Bleu is available in two main sizes, the 1.7 and the 3.4 ounce, or 50 milliliter and 100 milliliter. 50 milliliter is going to run you $70, and the 100 milliliter is going to run you $85. So it's not an expensive fragrance. It's not a fragrance that goes across. These are along the lines of like the designer fragrance realm prices, even though, I had actually never heard of the brand beforehand. Now, little bit note of, I guess you could say, warning. This is one of the this fragrance was actually sent to me from a rep from the house itself. So it means that I didn't actually pay for this fragrance, and I actually got some samples as well too that I'm not going to go through and review at a later date, but I wanted to get this one out. Now, what that means is if you don't think that I can be impartial, then take this review with a grain of salt, but just trust me on this, as many people have come to know me. That's the way I am. I can't help but be impartial. One of the things that I make clear is that receiving a fragrance doesn't entitle it a good rating. The best thing that it entitles it is a quicker review, but outside of actual ratings, it won't affect it. So with that out of the way and that little bit of disclaimer, let's go ahead and get straight into the review. The notes for this fragrance consist of, at our top, we've got mint, green apple, and lemon. For our mid, we have iris, tonka bean, and geranium. And for our base, we have vetiver, vanilla, sandalwood, and oak moss. So right when you spray this fragrance, you get a very nice, interesting aquatic vibe. Now, I was particularly intrigued by the fragrance because of the notes that I read off of it, and I thought, well, this is probably going to be a fragrance that I'm going to like. So this is actually the one that I chose to go ahead and receive a bottle of, and no surprise, I do like it. But as I was smelling it, I began to notice something strange. I was like, well, wait a second, I like this smell a lot, but I've smelled this before. What does this fragrance remind me of? And as I started getting a little bit more of the mint and the apple, and then I looked down at the nose and I'm like, whoa, wait a second, I kind of just reviewed a fragrance, or recently, within the past year, reviewed a fragrance that's very similar to this, and it's none other than Versace Eros, or I actually reviewed that over a year ago. This smells like Versace Eros. And I kind of, went some digging, got a sample of Eros, smelled it, put them side by side. I was like, yeah, sure enough, this smells very, very close to Eros. Now, they're not carbon copies, but they're close enough that if I smell this on somebody, I won't be able to tell the difference between Eros and this. So what I'm basically trying to say is once you give away, once the aquatic vibe kind of sinks in, you get mint and green apple right off the bat. And that mint and green apple gives it a very interesting citrus type of a taste. Not a taste, but a smell that almost is confusing enough to kind of give it a spicy type of a vibe to it. But the iris and the geranium come in a little bit more, and they give it a unique tinge, and then you really get the tonka bean and the vanilla. Overall, the tonka bean, the vanilla, the mint, and I think the apple are really what is making this fragrance smell just like Versace Eros. It really has an interesting take for it. Some of the main differences that I would say between this and Eros, this is a little bit lighter. It doesn't, even though this is parfum, and I believe Eros is eau de toilette, Eros is actually a little bit stronger, I would say, than this. This is a little bit more muted, which isn't a bad thing. It just means that this is a little bit more wearable. It still packs a pretty good punch to it. So it's got good projection, good sillage, and it's going to last you about 8 to, at least on me, 8 to 12 hours. So it still has that strength to it. It's just not as strong as Eros. But either way, so for those of you who have not smelled Versace Eros, this reminds me, vibe-wise, the dry down kind of reminds me of Le Male, which I absolutely love. The Le Male is a little bit more of a lavender, lavender and vanilla. Was it lavender I'm thinking of? I'm sorry, but either way, the dry down reminds me of the dry down of Le Male. This kind of has a 1 million-ish type of a vibe at the top. It kind of turns into a Le Male type of a vibe. So if you're fans of any one of those fragrances, you might want to take a look at this one, especially, if those are Eros, Le Male, and 1 million. If any of those are your cup of tea, go ahead and give this one a gander. And actually, Valentino, I'll give Valentino a little bit more time, but either way. All right, so spray-wise, for this one, I go between 2 and 3 sprays. 2 and 3 sprays, you can choke people out with this, but it's a little bit more manageable with this one. 2 and 3 sprays, I feel, for me, gives me a nice little scent cloud around. Now, you may offend some people, so if you're around people where you work in close quarters, you may want to stick to like 2 sprays for this one, but 2 and 3 sprays is what I go. Occasion-wise, this is a great clubbing fragrance, and this is a great going out or night out on the town type of a fragrance. This fragrance does absolutely well for those types of scenarios. Personally, I wouldn't wear it to work just because it's a little bit too strong for my taste, but go ahead and give it a try. If I know there are some people, I have smelled people who have worn Eros to work, and it does work, but just keep in mind, I can smell them away. I didn't know who I was smelling, but I know I was smelling Eros around, so just keep that in mind. Fall and winter is where this fragrance really shines. Fall and winter is pretty much where you're going to get the best usage out of this one. Spring and summer, I still feel that's a little bit strong for those months, but for the summer nights, I guess when it starts to get a little bit cooler, feel free to bust this one out. And age group wise, I really think any age group can actually pull this one off without any hitches. So with all fragrances, I take them out to Times Square, have people smell it. Out of 100 different people who smelled this fragrance, 80 people liked it. They said that it was sweet, sexy, and masculine. There were 15 people who disliked it. They said it was sweet, strong, and spicy. So as you can see, sweetness worked both ways. Some people love the sweetness. Most people love the sweetness, but there were some people who did think it was a little bit too sweet. Hence the cloying type of thing. And 5 people thought it was neutral. All right, so if I'm going to go ahead and give this fragrance a rating, I give this fragrance a rating of an 8 out of 10. I give it an 8 out of 10 for a couple reasons. The first reason is that this is a compliment getter type of a fragrance. This is a fragrance that you wear out, smell, you will get noticed. People will notice you, and it does do extremely well for those scenarios. It's a little bit more wearable than Versace Eros, which to me gives it a little bit of an edge on Eros. Where it loses a little bit of that, rating is the fact that it does smell really close to Eros. So that kind of brings it back in line with Eros. If it was to get one better than Eros, then Eros kind of brings it down because it really does smell like Eros to me. So, which isn't a bad thing. Now, the other thing is the price for this fragrance. The price is almost the same cost as Eros, what you're going to pay for Eros retail at least. So it's, from what I remember, yes, they're around the same price. So you're not really, even though this is, I would classify it as a fragrance that's a little bit harder to get, a little bit more of a niche fragrance, especially from where you actually buy it. But that said, you're still not going to break the wallet or break the bank paying for this fragrance. It's a compliment getter. It's sweet. It's a nice night out fragrance, especially if you're looking for one, a new type one that's in your wardrobe. If you have Eros, I probably would say no. Don't get this because they smell too similar. If you don't have Eros, take a gander. Smell this one side by side, see which one you like better. Personally, I still think they smell just so damn similar, but hey, that's just me. If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to let me know. Send me a message, leave a note down below, do whatever you got to do. Let me know what your experiences are with this house in general too, because I'm going to review a couple more fragrances from this house. But let me know what your experiences are with this fragrance and with this house. All right. Thank you. Take care of yourselves, and everyone, you have a great day.